Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Tushar Show. I'm recording on a new software called Zencaster, and it has this amazing feature, which is the intro. And I'm just testing it out because I haven't yet created an intro for this show. And yes, how cool is that? Cool. Let's get to our guest today. Our guest is Dennis R. Sumlin, and he was over here. This is a two series podcast, so we already featured him in the previous episode, in which he talked about three key things to remember while growing up as teenagers, because there are a lot of problems you can go through, and like you feel like your life is crashing while you're growing up and you're so young. And he gives you these three amazing things to keep in mind while growing up as teenagers, and I found them extremely beneficial and useful, and it gave me a broader perspective to living from the time I started, from the time I podcasted with him. And I kept that in mind, and I mean, life has changed, I can say that for sure. So dear listeners, let's welcome Dennis R. Sumlin once again to the show. And today we are going to talk about healthy relationships with the self and others. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey, how are you today?
How's the music?
Very interesting music. Very nice. Actually, that's kind of cool how you play the music and then like once you said welcome, Dennis, you brought the music up and yeah, that was pretty good. Good stuff.
Yeah. And there's this drum thing too.
Yeah, there you go.
Some things you just kind of like to explore as a
There you
podcaster,
go.
and you can put in your own intros in Zencaster if you try out this software.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Cool. So let's get to today's topic. We're talking about healthy relationships.
Healthy relationships with the self as well as others. So as we're going to
Right.
talk about, both first you and then how it is with you and other people, and we'll move into relationships and even deeper topics from that. So where
Right.
should we start from?
Right. So let's start from how to have a healthy relationship with yourself. And you can kind of relate this with Core Confidence Life, which is your podcast. And if I've not mentioned it in the start, listeners, he has a podcast called Core Confidence Life, and you can find it on coreconfidencelife.com. You can find it on all major podcasting platforms, and I've heard his podcasts, and they're very energetic, and I love the content, and I look forward to listening to a lot more episodes. So I want to relate having healthy relationships and building your core confidence along with it. Even though we talked about it in the previous episode about uh, uh, three things to remember while being teenagers, I felt that you did attribute a lot of things towards being confident there. Like you did give tips which would make a person confident if he followed it. But in this one, I want to talk about specifically being like when you're dealing with a relationship with yourself, because a lot of people during their teenage years aren't into relationships. So we are kind of getting into the categories of being in a relationship and being in a relationship with yourself. So it isn't actually being single. When you're not in a relationship with someone else, you're still in a relationship with yourself. So how to have a relationship with yourself and bring in the confidence for you? That's the question.
Well, certainly confidence is two things that helps build confidence. It's first the mindset, and then it's the action.
Okay.
So first is the mindset. You have to, we spoke about on the last program about different things like, keeping a journal or having a way of expressing your inner feelings, making sure those inner feelings get attention and you work them
Right.
out before, instead of hiding from them. We also talked about having hobbies that you like, pursuing your own interests, regardless on whether how many people are interested in it or not.
Hmm.
Certainly that as well. Also, celebrating your own achievements. So, because sometimes uh, we discount all the things that we did that were good, and we only focus on the things that we did that were bad or imperfect.
Right.
So if we got an F on a test, we'll focus on that and not remember the three A's we got on the three previous tests. So
Right.
remember, as far as building confidence in a mindset way, is give yourself credit for all the good things you have accomplished, whether that's passing your
Okay.
tests, whether it's being promoted to the next grade, whether it's anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. So remember to take pride in who you are, take pride in your accomplishments, take pride in the activities that you do. Um,
Right.
yeah. Also,
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, on a consistent basis, kind of appreciate yourself and praise yourself.
Absolutely. Praise yourself. Also, praise yourself on all levels. Like, even this is a little exercise for you. Look in the mirror and point out what you like about your appearance. That's another thing.
Okay.
See,
Right.
as teenagers, we get
Right.
we get body image. I'm not tall enough. I'm too big. I'm not muscular enough. We have all these things going on in our head as teenagers.
Hmm.
So if you look at your body, look at yourself in the mirror, take your shirt off or whatever you need to do, and look at your body and point out,
Right.
yeah, and point out like what's good about it. You like your arms, you like your skin, do you like your height? Like, it doesn't matter what other people like in this exercise. It matters what you find appealing about yourself.
Right. 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 Something I do is after I dress up after having a bath and combing my hair and before going off to my drum class. So I'm really well dressed. I'm wearing a nice sweater, maybe a badge or something, and I'm wearing cooling glasses. And then I do like I kind of enact Tom Cruise or someone, take out the glasses, wink at myself and say, "Hey, you sexy beast," and wear them back and walk out.
There you go. That's right. Look at yourself as you sexy beast. And that's another thing. Figure out which what kind of clothes make you feel most confident. That's a
Right.
good thing. I'm glad you brought that up with the dressing up, because sometimes different clothes carry different energies with it. So
Right.
you
Okay.
dressing up in a suit is different than you dressing up in sneakers and a hoodie.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
So I think even if you just get up in the morning and you get ready and choose a dress for yourself, if you do a little more and take the extra effort of appreciating your dress in front of the mirror, you're kind of boosting your self-esteem there. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Things dressing that makes you feel more confident, dressing in a way that you feel is naturally you. Like some people, they don't like suits. Some people,
Right.
so unless it's required, they don't wear them. And
Right.
other people love dressing up in button-down suits and slacks. It makes them feel good. And so
Right.
it's all up to you. How do you, what style of dress makes you feel like you're being yourself?
Right. 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 Awesome. And let's talk about this thing of, so there's so many things in which we can talk about. You can, like, we already talked about journaling in the previous episode. Now we're talking about dressing up. We could give maybe two three more examples of things that people could do to feel good about themselves and have a good relationship with themselves. But after that, we need to talk about, why do we all feel the need in the we all, I'm kind of generalizing, it may not be everybody at the same time, it may be at different points of time, but at a general kind of level, why do teenagers, or why do people of our age, or maybe everybody, feel the need to have a relationship with someone? Why is the desire or need, why does that come up?
First, just on a human level, humans are social creatures. We're not
Right.
made to be in our own little box by ourselves and never talking to anybody. We're naturally supposed to be social and open and interacting with people. That's our natural drive
Right.
to do so. Now,
Right.
there's introverts and extroverts, but
Mm-hmm.
that just refers to the amount of time we spend with people, and not the fact that the introvert doesn't mean antisocial. It just means
Right.
we spend a little less time, but that's a whole different. We can go into that a little later.
Right.
So first, we're social creatures. Secondly,
Mm-hmm.
as teenagers, we have all these things going on. We have our hormones are racing, and we're moving into adulthood, and we are trying to see how we compare with other people our age. So there's a whole
Mm-hmm.
lot of there's a lot of things going on with school and parents and emotions, and so we try to get we try to find companionship. We try to find a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever we like. We want to be with someone to share our times with, to go through our ups and downs with, to have someone to talk to
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
to our parents, someone to talk to about our parents with or something. And so there's a lot of different reasons why people are
Right.
so anxious. And also teenagers, because they're like on the brink of adulthood, a lot of them kind
Mm-hmm.
of think they know everything already. And they think that, oh, how come I don't have a girlfriend now? I'm already 18, 19. Well, we spoke about it
Right.
on the last time. We have plenty of time ahead of
Right.
us. But yeah, there's a
Right.
whole lot of reasons why people want to kind of rush ahead and get there.
Right. And I mean, it does feel good when you have a companion.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a companion. Not at all. But it's got to be the right companion.
Right. Right. So here's where the question comes, or the I mean, the situation arises. Sometimes things don't work out in a way for you to have a, a comma, like, air quote, relationship, in the sense a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, or any other general relationship. In my We are not going into boyfriend relationship or girlfriend relationship. In the sense, any relationship, a romantic relationship, sometimes just doesn't work out, and people feel it's their fault. And so how does one think about it, or what should the perspective be for someone who isn't getting into relationships, even though they are maybe trying? Sometimes people don't try at all. That's a different way to go. Like, sometimes people don't make an effort at all, but sometimes people do make an effort and they get rejected, or it doesn't go out well. So what should be the mindset for something like this?
Well, first understand that there's a lot of people on the planet, and there's a lot of people in your school. Probably there's a lot of people in your neighborhood. So everyone is not the best fit for everybody. We all have
Right.
different personalities. We all have different ways of being, different beliefs, different life paths. So if someone is not open to dating you or anything like that, that doesn't reflect on you. That just
Mhm.
means that maybe they can't have a relationship and they're not telling you that. Maybe their parents won't let them, but they just didn't tell you that. Or maybe they have a
Right.
partner already and just didn't tell you that.
Right.
Or maybe your approach was a little off. It could be that too. Could be a number of
Right.
things. But if your approach is a little off, that maybe means that wasn't meant for you at that time. So,
Right.
but the point is that there's so many people around us that being turned down by one or two people or three doesn't mean anything for you as a person, and it just means that you and that person can't be together. It doesn't make you less worthy of being with anybody, you know.
Right.
um,
Right.
and just keep a positive attitude and keep moving ahead. Understand that you have plenty of time to find somebody,
Mhm.
and you know there's nothing wrong with asking a girl out, but also understand that there's other things in the world other than just having a relationship with someone.
Right.
There's
Right.
friendships, there's hobbies, there's everything else we discussed.
Right. Right. And what happens, like, I faced this. in the past, sometimes I got too fixated on this one girl and I thought that she's going to be my life partner and there can't be any other girl who replaces her. So you have these very strong emotions attached to this girl, and then you feel that your life is over if she rejects you.
That's
And
natural.
obviously you get over it and you realize it isn't actually like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's natural to like someone and really want to be with them and really feel that energy, that vibe that you really want to get with that person. It's very natural to feel that way. But
Right.
you're gonna feel that way about a couple people in your lifetime, not just now. It may feel like it's just now, but you might feel that way about a few people in the future.
Right.
And also understand that just because you feel that way now with this person doesn't mean you'll actually
Mhm.
be a good fit. So
Right. Right.
try not to be like, oh, this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life, and you haven't even really gotten with them yet. You haven't really got to know them very much yet. So
Right.
just take your time, take relationships day by day, because things can change very quickly, especially as a
Right.
teenager. So
Right.
speak to people, try to be their friend, but take it day by day.
Right, right. And another thing I think we don't consider is that we feel that when we see, as teenagers, we see a lot of other people having getting into relationships. So we just go in with the perception that it's perfect for them, or I mean the relationship is the answer to all problems, or I mean when you're in a relationship everything is bright and nice and romantic. But a lot of times it isn't like that. It is like that on at particular moments on particular days, but everything is like like it evens out, something like that.
Oh yes, and that's another thing. When you see couples in your school or on TV or on wherever,
Mhm.
understand that they may look like a nice couple or they may look happy when you see them, but you don't know what's going on between them.
Right,
You're
right,
only getting a highlight. Oh, cool. They have someone and I don't. All right. Well, that's
right,
only one dimension. What if they're constantly fighting? What if one is mistreating the other one? What if they both feel like they need to be with each other because they have low self esteem? You don't know what's going on.
right, right.
So instead of comparing yourself with other people, start paying attention to the relationships you already have. Because sometimes we may look at other people's relationships and think that it's better than ours, or how can they get all these people and we don't have anyone. But if we pay
Mhm.
attention to our own relationships, we might
Mhm.
figure out that we do have someone, or we might figure out that we have a lot of good friends that support us. We might
Right,
figure out something else that we want to find out instead of comparing ourselves to others.
right, right. And also when we what we can do is like you said in the previous podcasts, uh, like kind of explore ourselves more at this time when we aren't in a relationship, because it's a very nice time to you get a lot of free time, you get your space, you're really in control of your whole day, and you're not obligated to someone.
Yep.
So you can explore more hobbies, you can pursue your passion even to greater heights or greater distances. You could like make more friends, you could do so much more in during that time where you aren't in a relationship.
And when you do all these things, when you're living your life, when you're playing your sports or when you're hanging out with your friends, you're probably going to meet other people that are going to be attracted to you. See, when you
Right.
stop when you stop putting pressure on yourself and the universe to have
Mhm.
a partner and just relax and just kind of be a teenager and have fun, go out there with you're gonna find somebody. It may
Right.
not happen tomorrow, but if you're around enough people and you're really pursuing your passions, someone's going to be attracted to you.
Right, right. Again, I just so that this point gets more emphasized. What would you say to a teenager who is actually pressuring the universe to get him a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or is actually just like I want it now, like is in the sense isn't able to wait, or is feels that if it doesn't happen now, there must be something wrong with him or her. What would you say to someone like this if you met him? or how?
Well, you got to back up and think about it that you can't force anything outside of you to happen. So saying that you want it now doesn't do anything. It only makes you
Right.
upset because you don't have it. When,
Right.
when you try to force things that are outside of you, you're just going to bring yourself misery. So you can't force it, right? Even if you
Right.
could force someone to be with you, why would you want to? Because it's by force.
Right.
Right? So instead
Right.
of worrying about forcing someone to be with you or forcing the universe or thinking you have to have it right now, relax and understand that when you stop thinking about getting relationships, you might get one.
Right. Right.
When you stop wanting it now, you might get it next week.
Right. Right. Awesome. And I loved something you told me yesterday, that when I told you, Dennis, I keep meeting the wrong people. I like fall in love with a girl who has a boyfriend. I find someone who's really not into relationships or isn't into guys, and then like someone who's 5 years younger to me or 3 years elder to me. So there isn't a real, it's like a narrower line of a chance of of having a relationship. And then I told you I keep choosing the wrong people, and then you told me you aren't choosing the wrong people, you're taking chances.
That's right. How can you choose the wrong people when you're just liking somebody? That's not
Right.
choosing anyone. You just happen to like somebody.
Right. Right. So you're taking chances with life, and that should be a natural process of life. And that is natural. That's the end. There's nothing more
Yeah,
to.
it's natural. Experiment. You know what? Have fun. Because you're
Right.
only going to be a teenager for a short amount of time.
Right.
Technically 13 to 19, but whatever. You're only going to be
Right.
a teenager for a short amount of time. You're going to spend the most of your life as an adult with
Right.
responsibilities and bills to pay, and maybe kids of your own, maybe not. Maybe a spouse, maybe not. You have
Right.
bills and cars and all these things to deal with for the next like 60, 70, 80 years. So the time that you have as a teenager should be a
Yes.
time of fun. You should be able to look back and go, I had great fun in high school. I had great fun in college. And, you know, don't spend so much time worried about if you're going to find a relationship tomorrow. Just enjoy
Right.
the process of experimenting with life.
Right. Right. Awesome. I We will get into the topic of having fun in a while or sometime. But here's one thing why people are also motivated to be in relationships, because even though you say that we can get a lot out of friendships, and the friendships that we have can be uh, a lot. I mean, they can provide us what relationships provide us and more. But something people, or even I think something people like about relationships is the opportunity to get physical, and something that's something very natural for a human to desire.
Hmm.
And so I mean, that's something that kind of draws people to want to be in relationships. Maybe for many relationships, I'm guessing that you get a chance to be physical, even though we'll discuss that people do that despite not being in relationships. People get physical without being in relationships, and we'll discuss that later. But for now, people want to get into relationships to be physical. And can you talk about that with the aspect of being teenagers? Is that a good idea? Is that a good reason to get into a relationship?
Well, first, it's very, it's natural to feel urges. It's natural to feel sexual urges. It's natural to want to mate with someone and, live out some your sexual drive and desires with someone. It's a natural thing. As a teenager, you're probably going to be your urges are probably going to be through the roof because your body is
Right.
changing. You're moving through puberty. Your body is growing. Your parts are getting bigger. Everything is just whatever. So it's a natural thing to have happen.
Right.
But as far as going out and doing it, I think that we should be, as teenagers, a little careful about doing it, because
Hmm.
though all these growth spurts and hormone spurts can make us pretty impulsive as
Right.
teenagers.
Right.
We do things without thinking about them because we're letting our emotions or our hormones or anything else take over, and we do them and boom, and then next thing you know, we may or may not regret it afterwards.
Right.
So first, understand that those feelings are natural. Secondly, understand that you don't want those feelings to control all your actions.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you don't want those feelings to control your actions. Also, um, as teenagers, it's good that we take our time before we jump and get physical with somebody.
Hmm.
Get to know them a little better. There's all kind of things that happen. You don't want any mistakes to happen.
Right.
We'll get into the specific practices on how to avoid mistakes and stuff later on. But
Hmm.
just for now, just think about those things before you get physical with somebody. And something that we'll get into a little later. There's nothing wrong if you need to deal with some self pleasure in order
Hmm.
to keep yourself a little calmer. There's nothing wrong with that too.
Right. Right. How was Dennis? How was your experience as a teenager, and how did you deal with sex and relationships when you were young?
Well, I like every teenager or most teenagers, I was very very horny and very wanted to
Okay.
do a lot of different things, and I kind of took chances when it came to talking to people. I had several people I used to talk to when I was a teenager. I would ask girls out, and some would say yes, some would say no.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I just kept kind of going. Like if somebody turned me down, I would keep going to the next and to the next.
Okay.
I actually didn't even have intercourse until later on, maybe 19, 20.
Okay.
Um, for that, it'll be some making out, some, as they call it, sexual petting, which is just kind of touching and grinding and kissing.
Right.
I didn't really have intercourse until I was like 19, 20. So,
Right.
um, you know, that's just kind of how it went.
So, th- do you feel that that's a strong enough reason to want to be in a relationship? Just because you feel like being physical, you may not necessarily know the person, but you may get strongly attracted to the person or turned on because of the person, and that's why you want to get into a relationship with this person. So is that a strong enough reason to?
Oh, yes. There's lots of people who want to date someone because they think that's the way they get sex.
Right.
And that's the way they can have it, and as long as they date somebody. And that's probably not a good reason to date somebody,
Right.
because if you're dating someone so you can have sex,
Right.
that's a little selfish, right?
Right. Right.
Because you're focusing on your own pleasure, and you
Right.
want someone else. You want to date someone just so you can satisfy your own pleasure.
Right.
So kind of think about that, and because sex is not supposed to be a selfish act,
Okay.
it's supposed to be an act of sharing pleasure with somebody else.
Right.
But as a teenager,
Hmm.
we are thinking about our own pleasure. We want
Right.
to get off.
Right.
We want to. Sometimes we want to use other people to our own for our own needs,
Right.
and so try to come away from that a little bit and go. Sex is for all people involved, not just my selfish needs as a
Right.
teenager being impulsive.
Hmm.
And if we do end up in a relationship and it leads to sex,
Hmm.
hopefully we're doing it uh, for consensual reasons and because both want to, and that we aren't being selfish about
Right. Right. I think this is a good time to bring out the topic about the hookup culture, or having sex just for sex, and how people say it like just like a one-time thing, or a no strings attached kind of thing. So how does that really play out? Is it really no strings attached, or like you told me yesterday, sometimes it can get a little tricky or complicated?
it. Yes, the no strings attached is a fantasy of a lot of people. They just want to have sex and not have to deal with the emotional or circumstantial consequences around it. They just want to have sex and that's it. Um, that can present not unpredicted consequences.
Okay.
So let's just be real. There
Mhm.
are some times in
Mhm.
life, I'm not going to be fake about it. There's sometimes in life you can have sex with someone and leave it behind you. That
Right.
has happened. That can happen. All right.
Right.
But we're gambling.
Right.
We're taking a gamble if you try to do that, because what
Okay.
happens in plenty of other situations
Hmm.
is that we think we're having sex with no strings attached, and then we leave there and we catch feelings.
Right.
Like, we think we want to just have sex. Oh, it'll be great to do this. It'll be great to do that. And then when we're finally with the person,
Mhm.
and we're actually being physical, and
Mhm.
we're actually, going inside them, all these things, we could develop attachments to them that we
Right.
didn't predict beforehand.
Right.
Just because sex is something that is supposed to bond two people.
Right.
And when we have sex with someone, we often become attached to them, even if we don't intend to.
Right.
So, or even if we may not become as attached, the other person may become attached without us really realizing it.
Right.
And we could end up hurting them in the process.
Right.
So, this no strings attached is a fantasy, and while it can be pulled off sometimes, especially and this happens with adults too, it's a gamble, and we
Right.
don't know what's going to happen with that gamble.
Right.
What if we have sex and we think it's no big deal, and then we end up getting hurt because the other person doesn't want to go further,
Right.
or we end up hurting them because it's sex to us, but it was more to them, and we just didn't think about it ahead of time,
Right.
because as teenagers our feelings are all over the place.
Right.
So it's gambling, and you're gambling with your feelings and the other person's feelings.
Right. So how does it have, like, there is no formula to say that I will not have any emotions. There's nothing you can do about it, is it?
You can say you won't have any emotions,
Mhm.
but after you have sex is when you're going to be able to know.
Right.
Because if you're just having sex with different people,
Right.
then each person is going to be a new vibe, a new aura, and you might like that person more than you think you would.
Right.
Because if we're running around having sex with strangers, we're going to meet someone that we like more than we thought we would,
Right. Right.
because it's different people.
Right. So
So
you
we're still
don't you
gambling.
don't have control. That's the line. That's
Yeah, you don't have control. You're gambling,
right. Right.
basically. You're gambling with their feelings. You're gambling with your feelings. You're gambling with, consequences like getting someone pregnant or catching something. But you're gambling with a lot of things if you're trying to have sex with no strings attached with random people.
Right. Right. And uh I mean, let's be realistic and be true to ourselves. Like, even the people who say that that would never happen to me, it can happen to you too, right?
It can happen to you too, because if you're saying if you're saying before you do it that could never happen to you,
Right.
then you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Because if you're going to say before it happened to you that nothing's going to happen to you,
Right.
how do you know?
Right. 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 Cool. And let's also bring up the topic of consent, because I feel this is very, very important. And me personally, I faced a issue where, I mean, there was a misunderstanding, and it caused complications later on in our friendship. In the sense, a friendship kind of broke because there was a misunderstanding of consent. And even though there was no malintentions from my side, so how to make, like, what is your standard, like, guidelines for consent while being physical?
Well, yeah, you need to have consent. Everything needs to be consensual.
Right.
Okay, and that can be tricky,
Right.
because people. First of all, this goes back to whether we're being self centered or not. Make sure that when you're having sex, that other person is very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure both of you are comfortable in the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that there hasn't been any manipulation going on. So
Right.
don't have sex like after you've both been drinking,
Okay.
because when you're drinking or using any kind of drugs, your judgment is impaired.
Right.
Okay, and if we're talking about males here, we could go out and take a girl out and go drinking, and then we go out and have sex drunk, and then she may claim that she didn't consent to it,
Right.
because we're both of us are drinking,
Right.
and we just kind of assumed it was okay because she was a little bit, she's a little bit drunk and she's a little bit playful, so we think it's okay.
Right.
But we're both drunk,
Right.
so you don't know. Be careful with drinking and drugs and sex. Consent gets kind of blurred
Right.
when that
Right.
happens.
Right.
Also, don't pressure someone into, oh well, if you have sex, oh, we can be together, or if you have sex with me, then that proves that you love me. Any of these little cheap lines you might see on TV, don't do that.
Okay. Right.
Don't tell someone, don't give someone any conditions around it. Of if you have sex, then we'll have blank happiness,
Right. Right. No
because
conditions.
that
No
no
conditions
conditions,
and
because
no
no
manipulation.
no manipulation, no conditions. And I always say, use, if you're gonna do this, use protection, condom,
Right.
all that stuff. So, if sex happens, make sure it's definitely something that doesn't involve anything else. No pressure, no manipulation, no drugs, no drinking, none of that stuff that could impair judgment or make someone feel like they're forced to.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right.
And also don't make assumptions. So if you're kissing someone, that doesn't mean they want to have sex,
Okay. No
right?
assumptions.
If you're Yeah, no assumption.
Mhm.
If you're making out with someone, if you're kissing someone, even deep kissing for 20
Mhm.
minutes, that does not mean they want to have sex.
Right. Right.
If someone is touching you, above the belt or whatever, they're caressing your chest, so that still doesn't mean they want to have
Right.
sex.
Right. Right. So no uh no conditions, like don't put any conditions saying that, don't, no ifs or buts, and because of this we'll be together. Like no fake conditions, no trying to pressurize the person with your conditions, no manipulation in the sense being under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and no assumptions.
Yes, one step doesn't mean holding your hand doesn't mean they want to kiss you. Kissing doesn't mean they want to have
Right.
sex.
Right. And
And also respect boundaries. If you, because sometimes if we're males and we're talking about being with females, sometimes we might, we're making out, we might start the advancing process. Maybe we'll start touching her, whatever. If she shows any resistance, you back off.
right, back
So
off
understand
immediately.
boundaries.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're making out and you go to touch her chest and she stops you,
Right.
don't keep going.
Right. Back off
Just stay.
immediately.
Just stay, yes. Stay where it's comfortable. So if you're making out and she's cool with that, great. If you try to advance and she stops the advance, just stay with what you were doing.
Right.
You know.
And what would you say for, like, in a situation where you feel that it may, that she is not thinking it through properly, so should you help her take a better decision, or should you take advantage of the, in the sense, should you not say anything and say, I mean, later you can say that that was your decision, but you have a feeling that she may not be thinking things through. You have a gut feeling that she may just,
Okay. When you say not thinking things through,
yeah,
she's not thinking things through and doing what? Is she's not thinking things through because before having sex with you,
yes,
or she's
in the
not thinking?
sense,
What do you
she
mean?
may not be thinking things through about being physical. She may be also caught up about with the pleasure in the moment or instant gratification, so she may not think through the consequences, or she may generally not uh, think about the conflicting emotions or something that may happen along the line. So should you,
Mm-hmm.
as a guy or as a girl, worry about that for the other person before, like, should you help them clear that out and then go ahead? So how?
Well, there's two things. They may sound contradictory, but there's still two things that come to mind.
Mhm.
One, we can't be responsible for everybody else's choices. We can't play psychologist to
Right.
everybody. That's primarily up to them to figure out what they want.
Right.
As long as we know we didn't manipulate
Right.
them or get them drunk, or it's still up to them if they're sober and
Right.
non-manipulated. But on top of
Mhm.
that, and well, on addition to
Mhm.
that, if you feel that they're being a little reckless, and if you feel that
Right.
way, then don't have sex with them.
Right.
You make the decision for yourself. Say, this person appears to not really be conscious of what they're doing, or they're being a little bit more reckless than maybe I anticipated them
Right.
being. So then you back off.
Okay. Okay. For their
You
good.
know,
For
because
their
if you're,
good. Or for
yeah,
your good. Yeah.
for
For
both
both.
of your
Right.
goods.
Right.
Because if you really feel that they're acting impulsively or rationally and or irrationally, and you can actually feel
Right.
that, then if you have sex with them afterwards, what do you think is going to happen? They might claim something. They might feel like you were forced into it, even if they weren't.
Right.
They might feel like you raped them, even if you didn't.
Right.
So if you feel like they're already off before you're doing
Right.
anything, then don't do it.
Right. Right. Nice. I think we covered this pretty well.
Yeah, and also I want to also throw in here that guy, it's masturbation is okay
Right. Right.
to
Right.
deal
We
with
were
some
going
of
to
these
get to that. We were
urges.
going to
Yeah,
get to that.
yeah, absolutely.
And for people who aren't getting sex now, it don't be in a hurry, right?
No, no, don't be in a hurry because look, we're going, real is real. Sex feels great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's supposed to feel
Yeah.
great. It's one of our primal drives and one of our primal functions. It's supposed to feel
Right.
fantastic. But that feeling is for people who, uh, can handle the consequences that are surrounding that feeling.
Right.
So don't be in a rush. And I will say that if you have sex with someone who you really like and who you really have feelings for, it's better than just having it with some stranger and squirting off in five
Right.
minutes.
Right. Right. So I think we haven't got into the moral dilemmas of whether you should have sex in your situation, because frankly we don't know your situation. And if you may be in high school, you may be in college, you may be working, so we you may not be married, you may be married, we don't know your situation, and we won't advise you to have sex or not have sex. We're not here as moral advisors saying you shouldn't have sex before school or after school or this thing. But maybe as a general this thing, don't be in a hurry to have sex is what we're trying to say, right?
Absolutely. I would even say that for adults. Don't be in a hurry to have sex because some of the things that teenagers do, some adults do as
Right.
well. Because we all want
Right.
sex. We all want companionship. We all want to feel good. We all want whatever. All the things that teenagers want. A lot of adults want
Right.
too. But it's important to make these decisions with a conscious, proactive mind instead of just letting our hormones control
Right.
us.
Right. So let's get to when we don't get sex, when we are not in a relationship, or we aren't in a position to hook up with somebody, or that's just not our style, or maybe we don't know how to go about it, or it doesn't happen to us. Let's say one of those many situations in which we don't get sex the way many others do. We can move on to how we can self pleasure ourselves as an alternative.
Well, there's a lot of I know there's a lot of stigma for some people around masturbation, self pleasure. But I will say, just it's a healthy
Hmm.
thing. I know that there are people who have some, there are people who teach religious restrictions around that kind of
Hmm.
thing, and if that is how you believe, then follow your beliefs. But I will say that masturbation is healthy
Hmm.
if done in a healthy way, which we'll get into that in a little minute. But masturbation is healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. It is something that people do to uh, show love to themselves. It's something that people do to handle their sexual urges when they don't or can't have
Right.
sex. And it's a natural human function.
Right.
And most people in both genders do it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's something we discovered during when we are teenagers, and I mean friends teach it, some elder brothers teach it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well, I mean, people learn how to masturbate in different ways. Most people discover it themselves. Like I didn't discover. I learned it myself. Like no one, there was no masturbation
Right.
class,
Right.
So I learned how to, I figured it out
Right.
myself, and most people do. Most guys
Right.
do. Um, and so it's natural. I mean, sometimes you might get taught that by your friends. Your friends and you're 14, 15, 16, 17. Y'all might be horsing around. Y'all might end up whatever, but those situations are
Yes.
random. Some people learn by themselves. Some people hang around a bunch of friends that kind of show them whatever.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
That's individual
Right.
circumstances.
Right. And let's get into quickly describing what healthy masturbation is, and when you told me when you shouldn't do it and when you should do it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things, especially when you're teenagers, you're going to hear a lot of rumors about masturbation, about your body, about your penis size, all these different things that fly around teenage
Right.
boys. But I will say that there's no amount of times you should or shouldn't
Right.
masturbate. There's no such, oh, well, it's good to masturbate only 4 times a month. There is no
Right.
number, okay, because everyone's body is
Right.
different. Um, so you masturbate when your body and mind says it's time, not when someone's rules come into
Right.
vogue. So, but it's important to masturbate when you are not going through anything
Right.
else. So sometimes people use masturbation as an escape for things if they're feeling bored or anxious or insecure or rejected or anything like
Hmm.
that. Sometimes people will use masturbation to kind of hide, to escape from it, to make themselves feel
Right.
better. Um, and that might work
Hmm.
temporarily,
Right.
maybe, but in the long run, it's unhealthy to use anything to hide from your emotions. Masturbation, drugs, alcohol, food, work,
Right.
anything. It's unhealthy to use anything to hide from your emotions. It's better to kind of feel your emotions and deal with them the best way
Right.
possible, or find another way of coping with it. Maybe, like I said, journaling, counseling, talking to somebody. Um, but it's generally not good to masturbate because to
Right.
escape, because then we learn unhealthy practices around
Right.
masturbation. Self pleasure is only for when we genuinely want
Right.
pleasure. You
Right.
know, when there's no other feelings attached to it, when we just genuinely feel like we need a
Right.
release.
Right. So the message is to masturbate or to self pleasure when you are feeling the urge to do it, when you're feeling horny, and do it only during those instances. Try to do it, make it a practice, or try to do it only when you're feeling the urges rather than
Yeah.
uh, yeah.
Rather than all the other issues.
Yes.
Also, something else I'll toss in there. You don't have to masturbate every single time you feel the slightest bit of
Right.
horniness. You don't have to masturbate every single time you have an
Right.
erection. That's not what our body is
Right.
for. Because if you start masturbating every single time you have the slightest erection, then your body is controlling
Right.
you instead of the other way
Right.
around.
Right.
you know so you don't have to masturbate every single day if that's not how you go. You don't have to masturbate every time you feel horny. Sometimes it's good to have those feelings and learn to just deal
Right.
with them,
Right.
because if you respond to every single time you have the slightest bit of horniness, and every single time you respond with masturbation, that's also
Right.
unhealthy.
Right. So trying to develop a little more self control.
Yes, masturbate, but do it in a self-controlled way where you're not doing it every, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times a
Right.
day, and you're not kind of sneaking off to the bathroom in class,
Right.
you
Right.
know, um, things like that. It's masturbating is perfectly fine. It's part of human experience, but you don't want anything, whether it's masturbation, whether it's any other substance or urge, to control you. You don't want anger to control you. You don't want sadness to control you. The idea is to have dominion over your mind and body, not the other way
Right.
around.
Right. So I think this should be a good enough guideline, in the sense we can't tell you when to masturbate or which day, time. We can't go into such specific details,
No,
but
no way. There are people who I know who never masturbate. I know guys who don't masturbate
wow,
at all.
yeah, right,
Yeah, and I know guys who masturbate
right,
every day.
right,
And so there's all and it's whatever feels right to
right,
them. So it's all it's both extremes and everything in the
right,
middle.
right. So there's nothing such as normal. Everything is unique, everything is uh, personalized. So don't need to feel that you're doing something wrong, or just because you may be doing it more than your friend, that you are abnormal. There's nothing, there's no line, or there's no indicator for normalcy in these situations.
No, no, there isn't. And as a
Right,
coach, if someone's coming to me and telling me their masturbation habits, depending on what they are, as a coach, I may ask deeper questions to see if it's being driven by something
right,
else. But that would be also on an individual
right, right.
basis.
So I guess my listeners will have to do that for themselves.
Well, there you go. You only you know what your body, and I just what you want. Your body, you know deep down inside what's right for you and what's
Yes,
not. Just pay attention
yes,
to that.
and maybe, uh, maybe like okay, yeah, something. How do you? One is you feel guilty when you get into the zone of masturbating while you're supposed to do something else. That is a different level of feeling guilty. But some people feel guilty about self pleasure. How to overcome that?
Well, people feel guilty about self pleasure for a couple of reasons. One, it's religious. Maybe their parents taught them that it's not
Hmm.
good. Two, it could be especially talking about males with they could be shamed by their friends. Oh, you don't get none. That's why you gotta be in your room jerking off.
Right,
Like you might get
right,
teased about
right,
it
right, right,
sometimes. And so those kinds of things can make somebody feel
right,
guilty. I will say one, when it comes to religion, it's up to you to decide whether to follow every belief that your parents taught you. That's
right,
totally up to you. And there's different religious beliefs in
right,
the world. It's not just one religion. There's different ones. Some speak against masturbation, some don't. And that your religious beliefs
right,
are up to you. When it comes to the teasing part, though, most of the time, if you're a teenager, you're like 16, 17, and your friends are teasing you about jerking off, they're probably doing it too
right,
anyway.
right,
They're teaching you about something they're probably already doing because they're
right,
insecure about it.
right,
You know, all I can say is that there's nothing
right,
wrong with it. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. The people who are teasing you probably do it
right,
anyway. Um, and I mean that's kind of it. You just kind of have to don't allow someone to make you feel
yes,
guilty. Just don't
yes,
allow it. Um, and, and like you said before, you could be feeling guilty because you're doing it more than you want to, or you're doing it and you're hiding from
yes,
something. Because sometimes we feel guilty about things because we know what we're doing is not matching and we just
right,
ignore it. So it may not even, so someone may be feeling guilty about masturbation and it may not even be about that. It could be about something else. Maybe like you said, maybe they're masturbating when they know they should be doing
right,
something else.
right, right, right.
Yeah,
And
you got to
yeah,
be careful.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I was saying that in India over here, it's more of like a social stigma because people aren't comfortable about talking about sex. They aren't comfortable about talking about masturbation. They aren't comfortable about talking about sexual urges, or the things that make us human. The essential human primal uh, factors about
Yeah.
us aren't spoken about by our own teachers to our students, by our own parents to our children. They aren't talked about it all. It's supposed to be kind of self-taught and explored in your own way, and you have some half-baked knowledge you carry forward in life. So even in my school, when we were in 11th and 12th, we had some outsiders come in to teach us about what is the sex. And like, I had an afterthought that why didn't our school teachers do it? Like, aren't they the ones who are supposed to educate us? Why are they hiring external agencies to do that? What's the shame in it?
there's several reasons why all that happens, and there's also a lot of myths about masturbation too
Right.
that go around. But let's well, first, the sex education in schools. There's a lot of people, a lot of countries, and a lot of systems that believe that sex education, the explicit kind at least, is supposed to be for your parents to
Okay.
teach you. It's not supposed to be for the schools. That's what some people
Right.
think. But of course, some parents don't address sex
Right.
adequately enough. So there's that little contradiction. The schools don't teach it because they think it's the parents' job, but some parents are uncomfortable with talking about it, and so the kids don't get any
Right.
information. So that is a problem that can't be solved on
Right.
this podcast. So I don't know what to say about that one, but I do know I did have when I was younger. I had some friends who said, "Oh, I don't know how to put on a condom because we were never
Right.
taught. I don't know if my penis looks normal because body image was never discussed. So I don't know if my
Right.
penis is normal. So there's a whole lot of information that's not taught in schools that people think parents are going to teach you, but a lot of
Right.
parents don't. So then kids go without knowledge and they kind of figure it out in the streets. That's an ongoing issue, and it's an issue in the U.S. as it is in
Right.
India.
Right. Right. So I think we've covered masturbation too, and the fact that there's nothing wrong with it. You can
There's a lot of
yeah,
myths out there about
yeah.
masturbation,
I think
lots
I
of them,
think the
and
best thing we can tell you to do is question all the myths, every single one of them, every
question all the
single one of
myths.
them.
You got to do what feels right
Right.
for you because there's as you get older, aside from the shame and the religion and possible friends, when you move into adulthood, depending on where you go, you're going to hear a bunch of other campaigns about not masturbating, and they call it this is called it's called no fap. They call a slang word for masturbating
Right.
is
Right.
fap
Right. Right.
somehow.
Right.
And there's this whole thing called no fap where men are saying that they don't masturbate for blah 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 reasons. There's a lot of different people with a lot of different
Right.
beliefs around it. You got to go on what feels
Right.
right for you.
Right. And there, I think even there's no age for stopping to masturbate. There's no age for anything, right?
No, no. As long as you can masturbate, you can do it when you're 60. You can do it when you're 70. As long as you're able to do
Right.
it,
Right.
you know.
Right. Cool. We covered a lot of topics. We talked about how to. We actually, I think we covered how to be confident in uh, confident in yourself in the previous episode, and we continued that a little in the start of this episode by talking about how to be confident being single or when you're not into relationships. Then we moved on to why relationships are nice to be in and why we like company and what could be alternatives for people who don't get into relationships. Then we talked about why we I mean being physical as a factor of trying to get into a relationship. And then we talked about being physical in its whole, like how we feel the need to be physical with people, the pros and the cons. And then when we don't get then we talked about when we don't get chances to be physical with people, what could be the alternatives, which we discussed in length about masturbation. And we kind of uh, we encourage you to question all the myths so that you can bust them on their own, because not all of them are true and most of them are not true, because they've come out of some random logic which people have made, and YouTube videos are not the right place for you to get your information. So I think we've covered a very good topic and we've covered a very strong podcast, right, Dennis?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Just it's important to basically take pride in yourself. Also, like we spoke about a little earlier about body image, and I think when we're talking about sex and masturbation, it's important to think about body image and think about there are people who are uncomfortable with their
Right.
penis size and people uncomfortable with how their body may or may not have
Right.
developed. Some people hit puberty a little later. All these different things. So just remember, like, penis size has nothing to do with
Right.
manhood as far as whether you're man enough
Yes.
or not. Um, when it comes to satisfying a partner, penis size doesn't have a lot to do with it. And to the extent that it does, there's other
Right.
ways around that. And so don't let anyone make you feel bad about
Right.
that either. Um, So just that, just beware of all the people who are saying, just remember all the rumors, all the people who are teasing you about parts of your body or lifestyle. That's just
Right,
irrelevant.
right. Awesome. And I think I wanted to add this line in the where we were talking about one night stands and hookups, but I think I kind of missed it out there. The fact that we covered it, but I just wanted to emphasize it a little more, that don't need to hurry up sex, because I know the majority of the people I'm speaking to aren't getting sex. The minority of the people I'm speaking to are getting sex, because that's how it is over here. I know that for a fact. So there's no shame in not getting a partner or not having a relationship. And by saying this, I'm also talking to myself, because I've never been in a relationship, I've never had intercourse, I've never kissed someone. And there is no shame in not being able to do this by a certain age. And even though I may not accept the fact 100%, I may accept it 95% and feel bad for the 5%, but that doesn't matter. And Dennis has given us a very, very good perspective that we have a long life to live. We have a lot of people to meet, and there are a lot of things yet to happen. So let's hope for a better future and not try to complicate our present. And we can always kind of uh, I mean, we don't need to be in a hurry, because things can get complicated. And we always have ourselves. We can self pleasure and we can find our way around our urges. Right, Dennis?
Absolutely, absolutely. Just don't put too much pressure on yourself to do everything in life before you're
Right,
20.
right. Awesome. This was one amazing episode, Dennis. And I think you're going to be a regular guest on our podcast, because people are going to love you. They're going to say, we want more episodes with Dennis speaking. We want him to cover this topic, we want him to cover that topic. So I'm going to put out I'm going to like ask them on Instagram, do you want him to speak about something else? And maybe after they give a couple of questions, let's ask Dennis this. Let's maybe 20 questions, and then we have a podcast in which we ask audience questions to you.
All right, there
Yes.
we go.
Good
Good
stuff,
stuff.
because this was epic content, and this was you were so open about it, and it was a very needed and open discussion, which is what is needed. This is what is lacking, and this is what is needed. So I was so glad that we could deliver something like this.
Believe me, this being open and comfortable about talking about sex issues is needed in many
Right,
places in the world. And I believe, I'm a sex positive person, which means, I think optimistically about sex. I believe that's a natural part of the
right,
human experience, and that done in a
right,
healthy way, it can serve what it's intended to serve, is for pleasure
right,
and bonding and
right.
love.
Awesome. So, dear listeners, you can find Dennis and more of his content, and you can listen to. I'm sure you have more such topics on your podcast, Core Confidence Life.
Oh yes, we touch on topics around, and I do interviews there. So we talk to several men about relationships and how they have dealt with their marriages and relationships, and we've had guests about talking about sex and entrepreneurship and just everything
Right,
related
right.
to men.
And it's a good podcast for men for their core confidence development. And you also have you also have some topics are general, which even girls can listen to for just self development.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch. I have women on, as far as guests. I've actually interviewed a woman the other day, and I had a woman on my podcast from a few months ago. I mean, we're talking about, we're talking about men and sex and spirituality. There's a whole lot of topics. So, just go and see which title catches
Right,
your
right.
eye.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Dennis. And I may be a guest on your podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah, that'll be good.
Too much self promotion on my own podcast. Anyway, thank you so much for taking out your precious time, and thank you for being so generous.
No
Let's
problem. It's fine.
put in the outro. Just stick in a while. Let me thank you again after I stop the recording. So
Okay.
here's the outro music. Yes, enjoy that, my folks. This is another episode of the Tushar Times, and we will keep serving and